Cool. This is the first Big Red Banter podcast. I am Ryan, and this is Kyle. This is new to both of us, so this is going to be a learning experience. Um, so basically, Kyle and I have been friends for quite a while. We both spend hours on the phone uh, during baseball season, talking back and forth about things that the Reds have done, complaining about different things that are going on. And so,
Also, a little backstory on that. I'm in Cincinnati, and he's all the way in Carolina. So the phone's all we got. We don't get to go to games together. We don't get to really spend time together, go to bars, watch games, even go to the stadium. So
correct.
talking
So,
on the phone to vent a lot.
we basically we play fantasy baseball. We play fantasy baseball together. We spend a lot of time talking about baseball. That's both of our passions. And we're obviously huge Reds fans. So Kyle lives in Cincinnati. I'm originally from Cincinnati. Um, so we got to talking. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff while I'm at work and things like that. And I kind of just got this idea. I was like, well, why don't we do a podcast? So we talk on the phone for hours every week about baseball. So why don't we just record our conversation and put it out there for people to interact with us? We definitely want to hear back on emails, things like that, and just have a casual conversation referring to Reds, fantasy baseball, baseball in general. We're not going to get too crazy about things. We may just scratch the surface on different topics, but basically on a week-to-week basis, you're going to hear us talk about predominantly Reds baseball and other banter back and forth between there. So
And we know we're just being armchair managers, and we're not trying to change the organization by any means. But there's got to be some other people that get their gears grinded by the same stuff we do, and we figure it gives us other people the same opportunity to listen to just dudes just banter like them and their friends do. So we figure it's a good opportunity to start something like that people can catch on to.
yeah, exactly. So basically, just a little intro about myself. So I am 26 years old. I currently work at a large home improvement retailer. I work full time. My wife is in the Navy, and when I'm not doing that, I'm watching sports. I'm addicted to fantasy sports, especially the DraftKings. That's some big red on there. And when I'm not doing that, I'm pretty much reading about sports on different websites online. So a little backstory for me there. Kyle, go ahead on that.
For me, I've been into baseball for a long time now, and outside of that, I play music. I've been in various bands. Me and Ryan know each other through the music scene from way back in the day. And then for work, I'm a pharmacy technician, and spend just a lot of time watching any kind of baseball during the off season, trying to keep up on as much as I can, as much as the hot stove that I can. I keep in touch with a lot of minor league ball. I just really like keeping up with the Reds prospects and seeing who we're going to bring up, seeing who's worth a damn and who we really need to start looking for. And I live in Cincinnati. I normally go to at least 20, 30 games a year. Me and my girlfriend normally get a 20-game pack. So, so I end up going to a ton of games a year, whereas he doesn't really get to. But we still end up talking, like he said, all throughout the week about everything. So,
All right. So a little as far as the format of this goes. So our thoughts on this is we're really going to get geared off when spring training starts. So we'll be watching the spring training games, discussing those on a daily basis. We're probably going to do the podcast either once or twice a week, depending on our work schedules. But we'll be recapping games, talking about performances, things like that. We'll be going into there and then really kicking off with opening day. So we'll do at least 1 or 2 episodes during the week during opening day. We have a lot of different things we're going to talk about. There's not going to be a set format for each podcast. It's pretty much just going to be what we want to talk about then. So look for this to really take off when spring training hits.
Yeah, we're gonna try to make this a lot about the Reds, but there's gonna be times where it'll be talked about more just about baseball in a sense, because obviously we're Reds fans at heart, but number one, we're baseball fans. So if we ever are talking to anybody and they want to talk about something non-Reds, that's always welcome too.
Yeah, exactly. So both of us follow all of baseball in general, just the Reds being our favorite team. So we don't have a whole lot to talk about on this first episode. We are going to hit a couple topics. Obviously, it's pre-spring training. We are past the winter meetings, so we're kind of in that dead period. So right now, as it stands, it is currently just flipped over to midnight, so we're looking at about 28 days till pitchers and catchers report. And in addition to that, we're looking at 75 days until Reds opening day. So, a couple things coming out of the winter meetings. We obviously had, we've lost a lot, but haven't really gained much. So, what we're going to talk about a little bit, I know we're going to talk about spring training invites and what the spring training roster is going to look like. So, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, so spring training, I actually have a little page brought up for you guys to see. I'm going to share that if Ryan doesn't mind helping me out there. Oh, that one did. Try this again. Let's see if this computer will work with me. If not, then we'll just talk about it. There we go. It's going to argue with me, so we're going to have just a little spot where I'm going to pull this up and be able to talk about it. And I got this from the Reds subreddit. We both get on there a lot. We've been on there for a couple of years now. If you're not,
shout out to the Reds Reddit page if anybody on there ends up listening to this.
Yeah, if you're on our Reds, this is a big shout out to you. But one of the biggest things I thought was cool about the Reds starting, spring training the roster was that they invited a lot of guys they didn't normally invite, and they invited a lot of guys that they traded for because they want to get the best look at. And I thought that was really, really cool. They went ahead and they brought in Jonathan Crawford. They brought in, they brought in DeSclafani, which was nice to see. They got all these guys traded for. They got, Yuniel Suarez in there, and then they even have some non-roster invitees like Josh Satin, who he used to be a utility guy for the Mets. A guy like Brennan Besh, he's put up some really, really good numbers in the minor leagues, but it's never translated because he hasn't gotten the playing time. But last year in the minor leagues, he hit, good, really well for power. He had an awesome on-base percentage, a good average. Could be a guy that can end up being an outfielder that can also play first and spell third base and whatnot, especially if Joey Votto's legs don't hold up, which obviously we all plan for them to, but, we've seen that things can happen. So really cool that they're giving some of the new guys a big opportunity to step right into the spring training and see how they do with the club and just get to know everybody and everything. So that's awesome to see them do.
It will be very interesting to see what we can see out of the younger guys coming into spring training, because obviously depth is a huge issue for this team. So last year, we had big talent going into last year. I know I had high expectations. So when you get into what the final of last season was, it's a little bit disappointing considering where we thought we were going to be. So I think a big one will be taking a look at our talent and seeing what we have as far as backups go for the team. In the last couple of years, I felt like our minor league system is not very competitive. I know we have a lot of pitching and we have some spotty prospects here and there, but it's a big concern as a Reds fan, considering what the rest of the division is doing, the Cardinals' reputation and their farm system, all the players the Cubs brought up. I feel like we are losing ground very fast in the NL Central.
Yeah, and I want to point out something else about spring training about this lineup. They went ahead and they added Jesse Winker and Kyle Waldrop, which I know Winker's been talked about a lot. In case none of you have heard of him, or there's any of you out there that haven't heard or want to hear more about him, he's pretty much the top premier hitter in our minor league and organization. He's just they compare him to being Joey Votto with Jay Bruce's power.
So we're pretty much in agreement though with the Marlon Byrd signing that they I would assume that the organization thinks that Jesse Winker is the guy and they're using Marlon Byrd basically as a rental until he gets to that point.
Yeah, they got Marlon Byrd as just a straight backup plan, and pretty much just a year to build up. Pretty much.
So do you think Jesse Winker makes the roster this year, or do you think he plays in AAA and they platoon in left field?
The problem is that he hasn't played a game at AAA. He got brought up to AA last year, and as soon as he got brought up to AA, he had an injury.
Right.
And out for a while and didn't get to gain his ground in AA. So he's going to need some time at AAA. I'm sure he's probably going to start out at AAA. So he's going to need some time and some grooming there. It's a big step up. Obviously, AAA is the biggest step up in the minor leagues. It is literally just, I mean, AA players to AAA players is usually a very, very big jump. So we're going to see how he does. But in the fall league, he commanded offense out there. So
do we have numbers for the fall league?
I actually don't have them right off the top of my head. I could find them real quick.
Okay.
Let me see.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he did there. I haven't looked at that. I will say, just while you're looking up that, another topic for spring training is also going to be taking a look at Tony Cingrani and seeing if he's going to be, back from that injury and actually make if he's going to make a push for the starting rotation or not. I know that John Fay tweeted out that he thought that Cingrani was definitely not going to make the rotation. So that will be interesting to see.
Looking real quick for numbers on Jesse Winker for the fall league. Let me see what I can find here. Well, I know he got Player of the Week. We'll at least check that out. See here. I got the Player of the Week stats for him. Let's check it out. He got Player of the Week in the fall league. He's a left-handed hitter with a very, very sweet natural swing. He produced a .455 batting average out of the gate with a home run, 2 doubles, a lead-leaving 7 RBIs, 4 walks, and 4 runs scored. And he also led the entire league that week in slugging percentage with .909 and OPS for 1.472, which is just, if you know stats at all and you're a stat kind of guy, that's just straight mashing. So really, really cool to see a guy be able to do that. They said he just commands the ball through just spraying it all throughout the field. He hits the ball so well that he can hit for power and hit home runs, but he's more of a doubles guy like Votto. But with such a sweet swing, he's going to send him out of the park.
That's awesome.
Really, really, really cool to see. But aside from Winker, obviously, and they call him the Wink, they said he's got tons and tons of power and tons of confidence with it. They said Brian Price was talking at Reds Fest, and they were interviewing him, and he said there's 2 things the Wink can do. The Wink can hit, and the Wink can really hit. So really cool to see it. The organization's kind of accepted him in and always having some nicknames for him.
Let's just hope that he doesn't get stuck with that grip it and rip it mentality that the Reds organization has a reputation for. I don't want to see another guy come up and be kind of swinging everything.
They said so far his game plan is still to hit just as many doubles as he can and go for gaps. So yeah, they said we'll kind of stuck true to that. So
be interested to see what he does at spring training.
Yeah, the other thing to look at is Kyle Waldrop. Kyle Waldrop is a guy that he plays right field and first base. I believe he can play both outfield. I believe he can play both outfield corner spots. But Kyle Waldrop, he has put up some serious numbers. And he doesn't get talked about as much. I'm not totally sure why.
Where did he play last year?
last year he went. Let me check it out here. Give me 1 second. Went to pull him up, and it started pulling up for Kyle Waldrop. That pitches actually. There's a pitcher in the minor leagues named Kyle Waldrop as well. But for the Reds, he's a outfielder. Let me check here. Last year, the highest he made up was to Baker. He made it up to Pensacola from Bakersfield. But throughout 2014 in the minors, he batted .338 with a .385 on base percentage and a .516 slugging. He hit 37 doubles, 14 home runs, and 4 triples. So, dude, he was the hitter of the organization for the Reds last year. So a lot of people don't end up talking about him a lot, but he has a serious contention of if he puts some numbers this year, you really might see Jay Bruce get traded.
That's a bold statement. Podcast number 1, Kyle makes a bold statement.
You got Jesse Winker and you got Kyle Waldrop coming up. It looks like the organization's really high on both. With Jay Bruce going to be getting more and more expensive, and with how streaky of a guy he is, if he doesn't put up the kind of numbers that Jay Bruce does this year, you might end up seeing a little bit of movement out from right field.
Oh man, I just think that Jay Bruce is. I think he's going to be back on his game this year. I mean, we talked at the end of the year. I think that he was having some injury issues. I think that has a lot to do with there's I just don't with as big a hitter as he was at one point in time, and how he was increasing, his home runs and RBIs. It seemed like every year. I just can't imagine that he would have gone through last season and been like that without there being a serious issue. So,
don't get me wrong. I think last year had more to do with that surgery than anything. And I'm not putting him down for that. I'm just saying, and I'm not even saying that I want them to trade Jay Bruce. I'm just saying I would understand if it happened with a hitter like Waldrop and Winker coming up.
Well, I think it's going to depend a lot on whether the Reds are competitive or not, too, because they've already, made it pretty clear that Cueto is not going to be around. So we'll talk more about that here in just a minute. And it came out this week that if they're not a contender by the time the trade deadline rolls around, that Chapman most likely will be on the trading block and be headed out of here. So I personally felt like, at the end of last year was the time to do that. I thought you could have got a lot more out of Chapman, and that his his trade stock was never going to be higher. But I don't know. We'll see. Chapman doesn't seem like the type of guy who, once his contract is up here, is going to resign here. I feel like he's the type of guy who's going to take the money. Not saying that I don't like Chapman. It's just I feel like with the way his life has gone, and with everything he's been through, he's going to take the money and set himself and his family up for a long time. So I just feel like that's what's going to happen, and I know I've talked to you about this in the past, and that I feel like Chapman is on his way out the door. When his contract is up anyway, and if we're not a contender, why not try and get what we can out of him?
Yeah, and I'm in complete agreement with you on him and Cueto with it. I mean, if it's not going to be a World Series kind of year, we got to take a little bit of the game plan of the Red Sox and the Giants into play, and look and just say, if it's not going to happen, then you need to try harder. You need to rebuild. You need to try again. If you don't have the team to do it, if you're not winning World Series, then you're failing. That's the bottom line. I'm not saying that every season that doesn't win the World Series is a failure, but I'm just saying if you build a dynasty of a team, and you build a team that you feel like is a team you want to represent your organization for years, and that team can't bring a World Series, then that doesn't need to be the team that represents your organization.
So look, we both feel like, we had this window, and with a market like how what the Reds have, we're not a large market team, we're a mid-market team. With that kind of market, you create windows for yourself. So we basically created a window, and from 2010 until last year we had that window, and I feel like I'm not alone in thinking that 2012 was the year that we were in contention, and we should have won the World Series, but things happened in the playoffs. You had the injury, and it just did not go that way. But I feel like with that was it. And coming off the seasons we've had, with last year, I feel like that might have been it. Like if it were me in the organization, I think I probably would have started dumping. But obviously I'm not a general manager, and I'm not Walt Joggedy. I've never won a World Series before, so if he thinks that we still can seriously contend this year, maybe he's right. I don't know. But it worries me that the team hasn't changed much, and it seems like we see the same things year after year. No offensive production, stellar defense, and stellar pitching is what gets us through the season. And when it comes to, it's like the Dusty Baker, thing was. He was a great regular season manager, but when the game was on the line in the postseason, couldn't make it happen. So I don't know. I have a hard time thinking that running the same team out there on the field for another year and losing a couple keys to what even made us successful, give us any success last year, is going to be beneficial. So 2015 is going to be an interesting year for the Reds. It may be one of the hardest ones to watch that we've seen in a while.
You started talking about management there a little bit, and that kind of led into a little segue also on that spring training roster. Something that I don't know a lot of people know of or not, but Steve Smith, the third base coach, is now gone. They let him go.
Yeah, it's Delano DeShields.
No, they replaced him with Jim Riggleman.
At third?
Yeah.
Oh no, Delano DeShields took over AAA. That's what it was.
Yeah,
so
Jim
Riggleman,
who
took Jim Riggleman's position.
Longtime manager of our AAA staff, great manager down there. Very sought after guy in the organization. A lot of guys respect him. A lot of guys get groomed by him down there at AAA, and seems like a lot of guys really like him a lot. They're putting him at third base. Last year was almost record breaking for how many guys we had thrown out of home plate.
I mean, it might have been. So there was
at one point in the season where you had to go back like 20 or 30 years to find a time when there was more guys thrown out of home base for the Reds.
Well, one thing about it's one thing to get guys thrown out in the beginning of the season, but at some point in time you have to realize, like, you have to start learning your players and knowing whether they can make it or not. I mean, when you're sending Joey Votto on a bum knee, I mean, come on, man.
There was times when he got thrown out by a mile. I mean, he was thrown out by a car length. I mean, it was just ridiculous. There was times where Bruce got thrown out by a car length, and especially with the new home plate rule, like it's not a thing where they can just bowl the catcher over and hope for the best anymore.
Yeah. If it's Billy Hamilton you're sending, that's one thing. But there aren't a lot of guys on the team that I want to be seeing sent coming around there like that.
There was a couple of times where he stopped Billy Hamilton at third base, and there was one time throughout the year where he almost, or I think he did, injure Billy Hamilton. He locked up his hamstring a little bit, and it bugged him for the next couple of days because he had to throw on the brakes at third base, and he almost lost his footing and almost fell down. And after that, he was taken out of the game. And it was just it was kind of ridiculous. So I think Jim Riggleman is going to be a huge upgrade. I think he's a guy that knows the game really well, knows how to run it. I think he's going to do a lot better of a job.
Well, one thing to be said about Jim Riggleman. So I looked up the facts here just to make sure that I was on point here. So he did have a point in time in his career, that he was promoted to an interim manager with the Nationals. and I just wanted to make sure I had the information correct. But he didn't get his option. He was there. He was named the interim manager for 2010 and 2011. And when they didn't offer him a contract for 2012, he felt like he was being disrespected and actually resigned from the Nationals. So, and I know I've heard people talk about it before that he went back to the minor leagues almost to have to to try and build his reputation back up again. So, you do have a man going to third base who has a lot of experience, but could also be using this as a stepping stone to move towards being a manager for another team again in a second. And I'll cut that part out.
That's no problem. Wanted to kind of skip to a little next part because I know we don't have a whole lot of time in this one, just because with it being our first one with the introductions and everything. Want to start on a point of Marlon Byrd. And we'll talk about left field. We'll talk about shortstop a little bit. And Marlon Byrd, is he the guy that I was hoping that they would sign and hoping they would trade for? No, but they didn't give too much up for him. Yeah, they traded Ben Lively, and Ben Lively may turn into a good pitcher, but he's also projected just to be like at the ceiling for him would be a number 3 kind of guy. He's not to be a ace or even a 2 guy. And, I mean, at most they're saying he's going to be a 3 guy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But that's all just hearsay. The guy's never pitched above, I believe, the high A. Is that right? Ben Lively?
I think you're right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
He might have pitched a double A, but I think it's just high A. And he's been good, but when he moved up in a rank last year, his walk rate doubled. And while the rest of his stats stayed pretty good, his ERA was still pretty good. His walk rate still doubled, and that was just against very, very low-level pitching, which isn't irregular for pitchers, but I don't think it's anything for people to be freaking out about. There was a lot of knee-jerk fans and knee-jerk reactions when the Marlon Byrd trade happened. Marlon Byrd is going to be an upgrade over what we had in left field, hands down. I mean, last year the guy batted 265 with a career-high 25 home runs. That is worlds better than what we've had in left field.
Well, the good thing about Marlon Byrd is, like we were talking about earlier, we know that he's basically just a rental until Jesse Winker is 100% ready to go. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Good.
But the thing with Marlon Byrd is, I think that they're going to try and bring in, what we felt with Scott Rowland. So if they feel like this team is truly a contender, they're going to bring a veteran in, basically who they're going to bring a veteran in who has been around the game, and a lot of people think that there might be clubhouse issues, with the Reds, and maybe that they lack leadership, things like that, and maybe that's what Walt Jocketty is thinking by bringing him in on that.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people have been talking online and every single trade for every outfielder that's come up they've complained about. The most recent one they just complained about was the Colby Rasmus getting signed for a 1-year, $8 million deal. If we would have signed Colby Rasmus to a $1 million, $8 million deal, I think I would have thrown up. That guy has been disappointing year in, year out. I mean, he has a ton of raw power and a ton of ability, and hasn't put it together, and has been riddled with injuries, and has been a strikeout machine. And I think his highest season so far has been 22 home runs. And I don't know. I don't see where Rasmus would have been an upgrade over Byrd. Fowler, while I agree, as far as on base standpoint, would have been an upgrade over Byrd. I don't think Fowler would have been that much of a dynamic changer. I don't think anyone that they would have signed, other than maybe Justin Upton, would have drastically changed this team.
Well, here's the thing, too, though, you have to keep in mind is while trying to upgrade in left field, the Reds are also the Reds are also attempting to stay, as low budget as possible. I mean,
Yeah.
we kind of hamstringed ourselves with the Votto and Bailey contracts, and to the, we have to upgrade our team, but be budget conscious as well. And
Well,
why give the money out to a player that we don't think is going to be the future? And if we can get Marlon Byrd, who will be an upgrade there, and hold over for Jesse Winker to be ready.
well, and the Phillies ate half of Marlon Byrd's contract. They gave us
Yeah,
Marlon
absolutely.
Byrd and gave us $4 million. So it's, in my opinion, that's a win-win. Is he going to be an MVP type player? Is he going to be a game changer? I don't really know. But if he hits 270 with 20 plus home runs in left field, that's best case scenario. And I think
Eh,
it's
The,
very, very possible for Marlon Byrd to do.
the hardest thing for me with Marlon Byrd is trying to figure out how I'm going to like the dude after he's played for so many teams that I don't care for. So that's going to be the hardest part.
Use the
Is
PED application and everything. But the thing is, the PEDs
there's
is
still
that
that sneaking suspicion in the background. I'm like, man,
with Marlon Byrd with steroids, at least he came out. He was honest about it. He fessed up to it. He said he tried something that didn't work for him, and he regretted doing it. You know what I mean? And then after he got accused of it and everything, he came out and put two really good seasons up for him.
yeah,
It's at some point with a player you can try to move past it, and you can realize they're a genuine player. They're a good clubhouse kind of guy. It's almost like with Melky Cabrera. He did something really, really stupid, but he went to the Jays. He's done really good there, and the fans have absolutely loved him for it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's at some point you got to kind of move past it. But as far as that goes, left field was a big change that we needed to make. But the next big change is going to be Zach Cozart. The guy needs to hit. I mean, he was nominated as the worst as far as everyday players go. He got rated the worst offensive player in Major League Baseball last year.
See, my problem with the Zach Cozart thing is he saves you a lot of runs on the defensive side of the ball, and I don't know where you're going to get a shortstop on a budget that is going to be that much of an improvement
I,
without throwing him from inside the organization. I mean, if you throw options out there, I'd be happy to listen.
something
But I
me
personally,
there was the fact that we let Didi Gregorius go. And that would have been up.
yeah, Didi Gregorius. That's a great point. But as far as that happened. But the thing is what can you bring? I mean, I haven't heard a realistic shortstop who could have been a target for the Reds. That
This year they have an option. That's why Cozart needs to improve. If he doesn't, Eugenio Suarez will take his spot. And
yeah,
one of the most encouraging things I've heard Walt Jocketty say in a long time is the fact that he just came out recently and said that Cozart has to hit to be an everyday starter. Especially with Eugenio Suarez just signed. A lot of people don't know Suarez came from the Tigers. And last year for AAA, Suarez hit 305 with a 400 on base percentage for AAA. Even at AAA, that's impressive numbers.
yeah, absolutely.
Stop. So I mean, even if he can come up and only do a bit of that, even if he can come up and hit 260 with a 340 on base percentage, that is worlds better than what Cozart's done.
Well, the tough part is Cozart always has a good spring. I mean, it seems like he leads the team in doubles. He leads the team in doubles every year during spring training, and then gets into the regular season
Well,
and
that's the
just
most
loses
frustrating.
all of his confidence.
He's got a good swing. He has good, gap hitting abilities, and he doesn't strike out much. Last year, what did he strike out? 50 times, 58 times, something like that. He didn't
I'm
strike
not
out.
sure. He grounds out all the time. He just grounds out.
He doesn't hit the ball well. That's the problem. When he hits the ball, he doesn't hit it well. He pops it up and he grounds it out like crazy, and it's one of the most frustrating things I've ever seen. But obviously, that's been beaten like a dead horse. So we'll move on from there. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew and was aware of Eugenio Suarez and just understands that the Reds did make a move towards shortstop, did make a move towards depth there, and is working on a backup plan in case Cozart continues doing what he did.
Absolutely.
But to move on from there, Max Scherzer.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go next too. I was actually pulling up to make sure I had the contract details.
Everyone needs to
100%.
understand that Max Scherzer was, the invasion of the Imperial Army. It just is literally just doomed us. The shining Cueto.
So that was the first thing I said to you when we talked after that was I told you, I said, if there was any chance of us signing a Johnny Cueto again, that the second that Max Scherzer signed that, that was over.
I thought Lester was bad enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Lester's at least young.
So with Max Scherzer, he's what? You told me he's what, 30 years old? Yeah, he's 30 years old. Signs a contract for 7 years, $210 million, with 7 of those years deferred. So he will be receiving, what is it, $14 million.
Paying him until 2028.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not $14 million a year. That's how many years it is. But he will be receiving money from the Tiger, or not the Tigers, the Nationals.
What it does is
for 14 years.
It's up to where Cueto is no matter what. And either whether we extend him or he goes to free agency, Cueto is going to get paid $200 million.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, and it makes the Clayton Kershaw contract look great. I mean, you're looking at a pitcher who is more dominant than Max Scherzer. I mean, the guy has put up, 2 really solid years, and now you're going to get a payout like that. And the biggest thing I told you was, with power pitchers like that, your biggest concern should always be what happens once the velocity drops off, because that's going to happen.
Here's what I don't understand about the Scherzer signing. They literally just came out and said that they're on the market for trading Strasburg. What? Why?
And then you go and sign another power pitcher. Like
Yeah,
what?
I just don't get. I mean, and I didn't understand the signing of Scherzer in the first place, because them signing Scherzer, that takes away from a guy. Pretty much what it does is it makes Tanner Roark the odd man out. And Tanner Roark was a very unsung name last year. But last year for the Nationals, he pitched 200 innings with a 3.47 ERA and a 1.092 WHIP.
Wasn't Jordan Zimmerman's contract up after this year?
That I'm not totally sure on, so I unfortunately I can't answer that for you.
Yes, through 2015, $24 million for 14 and 15. I mean, and I'm looking at it right now.
I just think it puts them at a weird spot with pitching.
I mean, look here you go. This is perfect example right now. So you've had Jordan Zimmerman in 2013 and 2014 finishing 19-9 and 14-5. ERA in 2013 of 3.25. 2014 2.66, and now you're going to have a contract. You're not going to be able to re-sign him, and this dude is 28 years old versus Max Scherzer being 30.
Well, Strasburg's what, 25, 26?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
He's like 25, I think. So it's like
the thing with Zimmerman is you're not getting that. With Scherzer, you're not getting anything that much different, and I don't see them being able to sign. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know what kind of money the Nationals have, but I don't see them being able to sign Zimmerman to the contract that he deserves with throwing Scherzer out there.
In my honest opinion, I don't think with signing Scherzer you get anything that's ridiculously more dominant than what Tanner Roark was bringing last year.
Yeah,
Tanner Roark. Some really great games for them. Through 200 innings, was a workhorse for him. I mean, and now it puts him as the odd man out of the rotation. They're looking to trade Strasburg, which I understand. Like, you signed the 30-year-old to $210 million, and let go your 26-year-old, 25-year-old, and then next year, if you can't re-sign him, you're going to let go your 28-year-old? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't
Yeah.
what their
And I
mentality.
mean, like just to go back to the velocity thing too. I mean, you see so many examples in baseball. I mean, look at CC Sabathia, look at Justin Verlander. You know, these guys that once their velocity dropped, they were totally hittable pitchers. I mean, Max Scherzer is 30 years old. You know what happens? I mean, they have a very small window, and then basically they signed him to a contract, and they're sitting on that, you know, for the rest of the time he's there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean the Nationals are going to need to do. I understand that they need to trade something to come off, and that's probably what they're trying to do with Strasburg. I get that, but um, I I don't know. I just don't think I don't think the rotation was the issue.
yeah.
So I don't understand the Scherzer signing.
I mean, the
I just
Nationals are going to be they're going to be incredible this year. I mean,
I,
if it all pans out this year, they're going to be insane. I mean, they're going to be good. But
what I'm just saying is that, in my honest opinion, I don't, with how good their pitching staff already was, I
you don't
don't.
think that's where they should have been
Yeah,
adding to the
I
team?
don't know how much Scherzer is really going to make an improvement. Their
Yeah,
pitching was pretty where it needed to be. Their offense was what was lacking, and
yeah,
especially in the postseason. I think in 4 games in the postseason they only scored 9 runs. You
yeah,
know,
absolutely,
so I just I don't think that free agent signing was going to be the most impactful thing for the Nationals.
Mike. I think.
I'll check it out.
All right, but I mean, the thing with Cueto is going to be that you know it was probably the wrong thing to sign him anyway with the kind of money he's going to get.
I agree.
But it is tough, you know, to see a contract like that come out and just completely shatter, you know, anything happening. So one other thing we can move on to, we've been kind of rambling on, but we don't have a whole lot of Reds news to talk about. We can move on to Corky Miller.
Yeah.
We wanted to bring that up.
Bring up a picture of him real quick just so I can see him.
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead and talk about Corky Miller, and I'll bring him up.
Yeah, Corky Miller just got added to the Dayton Dragons managerial staff, which I think is incredible. It's something he's been really wanting to do. In case anyone's not familiar with the legend that is Corky Miller, he's been a player that's he's just known his role in the organization as just being that guy down the minor leagues that helps develop our players. He gets call-ups here and there, but he's never been a great player. He's always been great defensively. He's never been a good hitter, to say the least. But he's been a cult classic kind of player for the Reds. His mustache and goatee, the Fu Manchu, will live on forever. And he's just been an awesome guy in the organization for a long time. And pretty much they didn't extend his contract last year, and everyone was worried that he wouldn't come back to the Reds. But it's just got announced a couple weeks ago that he got added to the Dayton Dragons managerial staff, which is really awesome because he said his goal is to one day be a coach, and he wants to stay in the Reds organization and in the managerial standpoint. So that's really, really cool to hear. If you're a big Reds fan or a fan of the minor leagues, a fan of the the Louisville Bats, any kind of Reds fan, I'm sure you've heard of Corky Miller. So I mean that should be exciting news for anybody. How you come up with that picture?
The man. I got it. You see it?
Yeah, the Fu Manchu. That's him right there. So yeah. It doesn't get much better.
I will say, last year. So I live in North here. I went to a Louisville River Bats and Norfolk Tides game here in Norfolk, and seeing Corky Miller just interact around the dugout and things like that was just absolutely hilarious. I mean, he has a larger than life personality. He spent the entire time and the entire game up on the dugout rails, just kind of, uh, you can see him giving players a hard time. Devin Resurrecto was doing a rehab assignment at the
Oh,
time.
yeah. I told you to go to that game.
Yeah, I don't know. He called me and like I was there an hour later, so it was super funny. Like seeing him. Devin Mesoraco had a couple pass balls, and Corky Miller was giving him a hard time about it and things like that. It was just super funny to see. But it's cool to see a guy who has spent that much time in an organization, be able to continue on afterwards.
Yeah, which that's just really good to see. It's really good. I really hope to see him up with the Reds and the managerial staff at some point. That'd be awesome. And I think any player that would come up and play for the team would respect the hell out of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Corky. Yeah, that'd be great. So I think that's a good kind of little happy end point that we can go off there. But I hope this is something we can continue doing. I think this is something that we have a lot of fun doing, and it's something that I hope we can share with others, and other people can get into this as well.
Yeah, so just to kind of throw this out there, I don't know how many people see the first one. Obviously, we're going to get better as we go along. We've never tried to entertain other people before in this sense, so you might absolutely hate us. You may never want to watch us again. Whatever. It's we're going to continue to do it. This is what we anybody who wants to come along in the conversation, we are on Google Hangouts. So we have the capability of having other people on the podcast. So in the future, if somebody was interested, we can have that capability. We will have a lot of stuff online here in the near future. We probably won't do many episodes unless some things come up until spring training happens. This is kind of just the introduction. But we do have an email address, so our email is bigredbanterpodcast@gmail.com. So you can email us. We have a Twitter account, Big Red Banter Podcast. And we also have a WordPress that this will be posted on, bigredbanterpodcast.wordpress.com. And we'll push it around out. This is obviously going to be on YouTube. We will probably eventually put this up on iTunes. But, if you do happen to see this and you would like to talk to us, hit us up on Twitter or, email. That would be awesome. But, yeah, so this is the intro episode.
We would love for there to be some questions that are emailed to us, or even tweeted to us, or anything like that we could possibly answer, or points that we could talk about on here for our next upcoming episodes. So if there's something you want us to talk about, or something that you want us to do a shout out about, let us know.
All right, and it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. This is kind of just impromptu. We'll be a little bit more prepared in the future. Neither one of us claim to be baseball experts, so you can call us out on stuff. That's fine. Both of us will be the first to admit when we're wrong about something. It's all good. We're just doing this for fun. So if you want to,
let that be encouragement for coming on and talking with us. Just know that
that's right. We got plenty of windows. You can pull you in. So.
We're not going to be that guy that's going to try to shut you down and make you look stupid on the internet. That's not what we're about. So, I mean, if you're worried about going on a podcast, or worried about going on a show and feeling that way, or worried about getting on a Facebook page and feeling that way, just know you can come here and you won't feel like that. You can feel welcome to feel like you're just another fan. So.
All right, with that, so I think we are going to sign off for the night. So. We may have another episode before spring training, but we will definitely have one right around the first spring training game. So until then, we will see you all later.
See you guys.